Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you, Insomniac, for pointing out my major error there and not renaming the stream. This is the problem when you do things back to back. Hopefully, it's reading properly now, and welcome. Hopefully, we can open up the live scene. I will get my webcam working because I know how to do this now. Whoop. There we go. All is good in the world. Welcome to Session Zero, The Smoke, Untold Chronicles. Really appreciate you hanging around after the masked stream. So tonight we're going to introduce you to our players. We're going to introduce you to how to generate a character on Fantasy Grounds. And then we're going to do sort of session zero sort of rules. We're going to go through the homebrew stuff for each of the campaigns and try and get a little bit of character connections going as well. We're not going to actually launch the game to 2 weeks time, but this is it. This is exciting. This is the very first of what I hope is this crazy multiple campaign world with everything sort of coming together. So I'm just padding a little bit till we get a few more viewers connecting so we can do the character generation together. So let us introduce our players rather than characters first. So Brooks, you are playing. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah. So some people might recognize me from the stream that we just had. Stuart on Discord, Brooks79 on various other places. Not Twitter though, because that got taken by somebody else. I think probably that's about it about me.
That is perfect and welcome. What would you prefer us to call you here? Would you prefer Stuart or Brooks?
I'm happy with Stuart.
Stuart, cool. So that is good. Then we move to Miss Blackthorn. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Laura/Larry. I go by Miss Blackthorn as my pseudonym on various sites, Twitter and the like. I'm very much looking forward to this. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it certainly is. What would you prefer on the stream me to call you?
Whatever's easiest for you, I don't mind.
Are you okay with Larry?
Yeah, Larry's always good.
Excellent stuff. Then we move to I think it's Jam Hands on Twitch. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm
I'm James, or Jam Hands on Twitch.
And what would you prefer me to call you?
James is fine, okay. Thank you.
And then finally we go to Wizard.
Yes, so I'm Wild Wizard on I'm Wild Wizard on Discord. No, Wild Wizard on Twitch. Wizard Stuff on Discord. And I am Daniel, and you can call me whatever you like, as long as it's not Daniel, because that's way too formal.
If I'm being pedantic, so I should start calling you whatever you like.
Cool.
I've still got it at the moment. I might have just done 3 hours of streaming, but I'm sharp as a spoon at the moment. Sharp as a spoon. Okay, so that is our actual players. There's so much that I kind of want to cover about what we're trying to do here. But I think first let's get into the nitty gritty and let's generate these characters now. As I think the majority of you in chat are actually aware, spaces have been kind of allocated or whatever, so people have had chance in Discord to talk about their characters. But we're going to kind of do this as a collective. So this is quite interesting because I only get to see the GM's version of this. So to generate a character, first of all, you need to open up your character wizard. You do this by clicking on your PC button, which is on the top of the right-hand side of your virtual tabletop, I suppose we call it. And that should open up your character selection page. And we have, as you can see, no characters at the moment. Has everybody got that in chat?
Yep.
Mhm.
Then if you look at the bottom of that character selection page, you see a little star which says Open Character Wizard. So if you click on that, you open up your wizard. I think the thing,
Really
see,
bad thing is
yeah.
I've never managed to get this to work.
yeah, I think fundamentally I've already made a mistake. The very, 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 very first thing that you need to do is at the bottom of your virtual tabletop on the right is click on your library button. And your library button opens up a page called Library. There are no surprises there. And if you look in the bottom left-hand side, you see a little button called Modules. If you click on that and open that up, it will show you all of the data module activation. And it's important that you do this if you want specific types of character builds. I've got, I think, everything other than the Ravnica books available. And what you need to do is activate those modules. If you don't activate those modules, then you won't be able to share my content. So make sure that you've got that activated, basically.
So am I just hitting the load button?
Yeah, load buttons. I'm not sure what you see. I think you probably see a lot with just kind of green buttons, but it'll be load and unload. But if you don't activate those modules first and foremost, you'll get just the very basic stuff. What I find, provided your computer is able to handle it, you can just open them all up initially. So that gives you all of the options. So once
I
you
know that my computer's a bit slow. I made sure to do that before we started.
no, yeah, I just it's one of the things that I forget to mention, which is it's key because obviously it gives you access to all of the information. Load it all up. Take your time with it. I'll just chat about things whilst you're doing that. So once we've got the characters generated tonight, we will be looking at how the characters maybe have met up or maybe they haven't met up as yet. If they haven't met up, we'll look at the hooks that will be getting them into the game. Beyond that, we'll be looking at the nitty-gritty of the game itself in terms of homebrew rules, not so much campaign background, but the style of the play that we'll be using, whether I'm rules as written or rules as interpretation, whether I like cinematic games or games that are very, very regimented. All of the usual kind of session zero stuff that you get to learn about player versus player interactions. There is a whole host of very general kind of initial session statements to be made, really. People who play regularly with me, I mean, we don't normally do this because we automatically assume that everybody is going to be super cool, want to tell a cooperative story, and to be perfectly honest, since I've been running it from Chimera, we've had virtually to no real sort of problems at all. I have a lot of faith in our community, so I don't think it's going to be any issues or any problems now. But because this is new and because we're kind of doing a session zero, I think it's quite nice to remind people about session zeros and the kind of basics that you can kind of do to make sure everybody around the table is comfortable with everything that's going forward and everybody's sort of playing on the same playing field. Hopefully that has padded out enough for people to have loaded up most of their stuff. Are we all good to go?
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. So if you've opened up that character wizard to say PC, click on that button, it gives you character selection, little blue star, and that allows you to then do this. You don't necessarily need to do this in any particular order, but there are these buttons along the top of your sheet that say race, stats, class, background, etc. You can type in your name where it says name, and you need to go through the process till your character is more or less completed before you can save the character. So I'm not going to ask you individually what you're going to do. I'm just going to create a character myself at the moment. So this is for the stream. Those of you generating your characters, just go ahead and start generating your characters. If you do have any questions, shout up. As an NPC, we'll go to race, select race here. I am going to select a goblin. Okay, so this has allowed me to select race. It's also done the stats for me at the moment, but they might not be the kind of stats I want. And you can modify this as you go along. So it's just done that. It allows me to change my race if I choose to change it. Now, one of the key features of Fantasy Grounds Unity is this symbol here, which is the button. And as you look at the cursor is a pointer until I put it across this button and it turns into a little hand grabbing the button. These buttons allow you to manipulate information. So if you click on it, right click, it gives you all the information. So this is all the information about goblins. There we go. Lovely, lovely. You've also got a way of saving the information as well. If you kind of want to be reminded what a goblin can do, if you grab this button here, drag it all the way down to one of these boxes at the bottom of the screen. It's not going to work now. Look at that. Why is that not working? That has never done that before. Oh, that is great. Is everybody still there in chat? Because you've all gone quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
No,
I
no.
can't. I have no
Question.
Yes,
races
I've
to
muted
select.
myself locally.
Everybody,
Oh.
everybody okay with what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah, just adding inventory now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are we allowed to use point buy?
Yeah. So for character generation, you are ahead of me at the moment. If you look at stats, you can use either standard array or point buy. At the moment, we've got standard array here, but you can use point buy if you prefer.
Are we able to do the thing from Tasha's where you can move your race
Yeah.
abilities around?
Tasha's is available for you as well. So yeah, if you do want to use Tasha's, you can use Tasha's rules. Tasha's rules should be available to you as well.
Yeah. I can't work out how to move the the racial ability point scores. I can't
What
work out.
the
So
easiest
you might
way
want
to
to do that after you've
yeah
completed your character, and then you can just go in and set the numbers to be what they
yeah
should be.
the easiest way
Okay,
is
cool.
to just make a mental note of what you've been given so far. So for
Right,
instance,
gotcha.
as a goblin, I've got +2 to Dex and +1 to Con. And then once we've loaded up your character, you can rearrange that. One of the strengths of Fantasy Grounds is it's exactly the same as using kind of pen and paper. Everything you do can be undone. Everything you do can be changed. You can't really make mistakes. You know, if you roll and you should have rolled with advantage, we can easily adjust that and either make you roll with advantage or we can get you to roll another d20. If you do like a ton of damage and you weren't meant to do a ton of damage to another character, for instance, we can kind of erase that quite easily. So it's a tremendously powerful system. Once you know how to use it, it really takes an awful lot of the pain away from running games, especially as a GM. As you maybe witnessed earlier, for instance, when bless is placed on certain party members, it automatically rolls the d4, and you as a player don't have to remember. I as a GM don't have to remember. Same is like with Bane or other modifiers. So it is very, very good.
I can't select any races.
Did you load in the modules?
Yeah, I've loaded every book. It's just I click on that
Okay.
little red thing. It just comes up with nothing.
If you might be worth just trying closing the wizard, reopening it, see if that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. The only thing
There we go.
the only thing that I would say, it says that someone's running a different version than client v4.07. So if you're not getting all the information, there is a chance that you haven't updated it.
I'll have
So
a look at that
we've
afterwards.
noticed that there seems to be a lot of updates for Fantasy Grounds
Yeah,
Unity,
at the moment.
which is fantastic. But it does mean that we do need to occasionally go in and actually update. Normally, it's fairly good about telling you when it needs to update in advance.
So if you have done that, how close are we to you running through that wizard at the moment?
It shouldn't be too much longer now. I've got
Okay.
it. I've got it all back.
Don't worry too much about your spells and your inventory at the moment, because this is something that I like to show the
Oh, now you-
viewers. Plus, it also gets your character kind of on the board so people can see them. So, as you can see, Brooks's character Janus is beginning to evolve now, and you can see that it's a character, it's a hero in the making or not. It is both a rogue and a charlatan, a high elf.
No need to get into details and start calling people
This
names.
is all about the details. This is at the moment all about this is a session 0 where there are no secrets at the moment.
Oh dear.
So, as I stated before, these buttons here are just so useful. Click on that, it gives you all of the background information. There's even additional buttons about this. Same with the high elf. Wherever there is one of those, I call them shields because they look like they're shields to me anyway. It's really useful. You can clear buttons from down here quite easily. Now, your character sheet is how you manipulate things on your character. The main page is important. You have your abilities, you have your saving throws, have your name, your class, race and background, any kind of extra senses that you've got, your passive perception, your armor class, your initiative, your speed. And at the bottom here you have your wounds. Now your wounds is how much damage you've actually taken as opposed to how many hit points you've got. You have your maximum hit points here, temporary hit points here if you get them, and your hit dice here, and your death saves over here. So it tells you one of the next key functions of Fantasy Grounds beyond the brown button that I say that gives you all the information. As you see, these other characters begin to appear beautifully now. Is this little symbol here? This is I keep calling it an hourglass, and that is because I'm an idiot. It is a looking glass. And if you click, if there's one of these and you click on it, it opens up information about the things that it's next to. So if you open this up, it gives you combat calculations for Janus, and it allows us to see his initiative is 3, but it's only based off his dexterity at the moment, which is what initiative should be. His speed is 30, and his armor class is currently 14. And his armor class is based off 10 plus 1 plus dexterity. Now you can manipulate that. For instance, for some reason he's put a miscellaneous 99 in there, making his armor class
I don't know where that came from.
113. So you can manipulate this. It's important if you're playing a monk or barbarian, you can kind of increase your speed here when you need to. Very much like pen and paper, it doesn't necessarily do all of the functionality for you. So when you level up, you perhaps need to make sure that your ability score goes up where you want to place them, that your speed goes up. If you're wearing new armor, make sure your armor class goes up as well. So that is important. And the way that you modify those numbers is with clicking that looking glass. So that is the basics, the main character. Making rolls is relatively simple. You see the box with the number in, you just double click it. So for instance, if I need to do an ability check, strength, as Janus, we can just double click that. And he's got a 0. What a cracking start. A strength
Andy,
saving throw.
Would you be able to enable the view so that we can see your rolls?
You want to see my rolls, do
If
you?
that's okay with our wonderful, amazing GM.
I mean, all our wonderful viewers can see my rolls.
Yeah, but I can't see Janus failing at this strength.
I mean, you're full of fail. Full of fail at the moment. Right, so there is this options here that the GM has, and as say chat, show GM roles. I've put it's on now because we've got a whingy player already, and like there we go. You can see my roles now. In all truth, I like doing open roles. It makes the game far more exciting. So that is what we've got here. You notice that 3 of our characters at the moment, Minty, Galen, and Janus, have put images here as well. And you can click on here to import images from data stored on the system, or you can actually import your own images. One of the ways to do that is you open up the data, go to a store. I think there's a way of doing it. You can choose from these kind of images. This is from actually aliens, so you too could play someone who's about to get killed by a xenomorph.
Wait, what are you planning? Sorry.
Your portrait and your token tend to be the same picture. This is the main page with all of that functionality. As we kind of move down here, you get to look at some other things. So we go to skills next. All of these skills should have been filled in properly. You notice that the double proficiency bonus for deception here. Insight is proficient. The ones without the stars highlighted is just normal. There's no proficiency at all. All of your totals are here. And how you make the roll is by just double clicking on this total box. So it's getting better. 21 acrobatics roll there. Fantastic stuff. Once again, if you click on these buttons, it actually tells you what these ability scores do. Very straightforward, no real problem there. Then we go to abilities. This doesn't have a direct effect overly on the functionality of Fancy Grounds, but it certainly tells you what skills you've got. So if you kind of go down here, you can look at what expertise does, what sneak attack does, what thieves can't does. Tells you your proficiencies as well, and your languages. Now, your languages do have a functionality in Fancy Grounds, which is really useful and one of the really neat things that you can do. So the program Fancy Grounds recognizes what languages you can speak, and as we can see that Janus here speaks Dwarvish and Elvish. So if we say something in Elvish, I'm beginning to sound like Sean Connery, as in...
So there is one language which it doesn't seem particularly happy with at the moment, which we might look into the best way to approach, and that will be Thieves Can't.
Yeah, that's because Thieves Can't is rubbish. Only bad players are rogues, and
Oh.
they're naughty, and they shouldn't be allowed to talk to other people anyway.
But Janus is just so delightful.
Janus is so going to die very, very rapidly.
Oh, so rapidly.
Okay, maybe by the end of this session, which is going to be pretty amazing.
It's going to be really impressive dying in session 0.
So there are games that you can die in character generation, Traveller and Cyberpunk. Little fun fact for you role players. So we have selected Elvish here. So if we do this and we click on hello, we're not able to click on the chat, you can see that in chat here, it has translated it. It's spoken in Elvish, and any of our other players who can speak Elvish will be able to read that. If you can't, then you can't. And it's a really interesting functionality that you can play talking amongst yourselves and talking to NPCs. It's a little bit long-winded with typing, but it makes encounters substantially more interesting. So there is a degree of functionality there, and it is worth filling out your languages and ensuring you can speak the right number of languages and which languages you can speak. So right at the beginning, please choose all of your languages. Don't leave them till sort of mid game one and go, oh yeah, by the way, I've got a free language slot. I'm going to take that language now. So please, as I say, choose your languages. Make sure you're speaking the right number of languages because it might just be important. Okay, so we're going to move on inventory, and you can see that Stuart, the player, has done a tremendous job of getting the right equipment sorted. Now, I did say during character generation, don't worry too much. So I see that
You
Galen
said it just after I'd
I see that
finished.
Galen is definitely following. See, and Minty is following the instructions of the GM. GMs really like it when you follow the instructions. So
I
we've
do
got
apologise,
three.
Andy. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, it's too late for apologies. Too late. It's just a slippy slope all the way.
The card has
Yeah,
been marked.
James is going to die in session 0.
So we need to get you some equipment, the three of you, and you yourselves can do this. All you need to do is open up your character sheets on your inventory section, and then if you look, it's probably best if you open up the library button first. You'll basically see at the top of the library button is right at the bottom of the virtual tabletop on the right hand side. You'll see that there are three buttons at the top of the library. There's GM, Play, Create PC, and All. And if you press on the All button, that just makes all the buttons available to you show up. So you can kind of see all of the buttons for all of the functionality. And what you need to look at is the Items button. If you can find the Items button on the right hand side, you click this, and you can now access all of the mundane items in all of the data modules that you've opened up. So feel free now to drag. The way you put it into your inventory, is again very straightforward. So Galen, what item do you know that you should have?
Leather armor.
Okay, so if you open up your item, if you open up the items button,
Yep, I've got it.
in the search function, if you put leather,
Yeah.
that's sorry, again, it should be in the first thing that you can type into. If you just
Yeah, there. It's showing me a ton of stuff that's infused, but
yeah, if
it's
you,
now
you
showing me the other bit.
scroll down to that, and you grab your little brown shield, drag it across, and there you go. You've got your leather, and if you look at it, it's automatically equipped that.
Cool.
Which means that you should have the benefits of that now as your armor. But I'm just going to do that again and see whether it's done it. Yeah. Okay. So if the rest of you just want to fill out your equipment like that whilst I am rattling on, you can add to your equipment. One of the things that we've found with Fantasy Grounds, rather than importing, that if you do it this way and you drag across one of your packs, your Explorer's pack or your Priest's pack, it actually gives you all the items in the pack rather than just saying you have a pack with all of these items in, which is really useful. Okay. So whilst you are doing that, we'll move down to the notes. The notes section is all about your characters, personality traits, bond, flaws, how you want to organize that. You can yeah, here we go. Personality trait, a wonderful, delightful person. Okay, I thought you weren't going to be too worried about filling this bit out due to the horrible death about to await you. Then we have the log section, which is kind of designed for Adventurers League, so we don't really need to worry about that. And then one of the most important parts of your character sheet is the actions. Now you see that the only things Janus has got at the moment is his equipment loaded up. Now, by putting your equipment into your inventory and equipping it, it automatically transfers it across to your actions. And there's a few functionalities here as well, in the fact that you can choose whether you want to throw your dagger, you can choose whether you want to use it at range, you can choose whether you want to use it primary hand, secondary hand, or offhand. So you've got a number of things that you don't think you can click on, but you can click on to change the nature of what you're doing. So for instance, if you've got a versatile weapon, you want to sort of use it two-handed, by clicking on that, it recognizes it and it will turn it to you turn it to a two-handed weapon, and it'll do you more damage. You can also add your ammo slots in here. This is where you can count down your ammo there as well. Other guys in chat, if you are having any issues, please shout up and I'll talk you through that. As stated before, if you click on the brown button, it tells you all of the details about dagger. And there we go, simple melee weapon, 2 gold, weight, 1d4 piercing. It tells you it's finesse, light, thrown, and the range. It's so useful when you kind of, what is the range of that? You don't need to search through a book anymore. If you have the weapon, click the brown button, tells you it straight away. Very, very cool. It is worth double checking that the modifiers are okay on your weapons. Again, sometimes it doesn't sort of tell you. It's clicked as bonus and base here. The actual thing for dagger, it can be used as a finesse weapon, I believe. So you can use it as strength, or you can use it at dexterity, and you can choose what stat.
For Janus, it's definitely not a good idea to go for strength.
Yeah. But as an example, for instance, if you choose strength, you notice the modifier drops straight down to 1. And then if you go to dexterity, it goes up to 5. So again, you can modify what your weapon. Sometimes it doesn't recognize you're proficient in it, so you have to do that. If it's a magic weapon, you can put bonuses in here. So you can change your attack rolls and your damage rolls by clicking on here. Again, if you find your weapon is going to do more damage, you can click on there. If you make a roll to attack, you can just double click on that number there, and that was so almost a natural 20. 19 to hit, and then you can do your damage there, plus 5 damage. Super easy, super cool. So
Andy,
very, very straightforward. Yep.
We've had a request from chat if we can show where the pictures are for the icons.
Okay, so relatively straightforward. You just double click on your portrait, and then this opens up a data folder. This data folder has all of the things stored that are given to me from the content that I've got. So you can click on this and then you can look. So that's in the Aliens game, Message of Art, fantasy animals, fantasy portraits, Eberron portraits, D&D 5th edition. So we say we want to go D&D 5th edition. We want some gnomes. It's got all of these gnome pictures. So you can easily choose if you want portraits on the system that are part of Fantasy Grounds and part of D&D license. For instance, Minty here, Larry has done their own artwork, which is super cool. And quite often people, the Hero Forged pictures they use from there as well, which are super cool, that people are really keen to display their characters that way as well. So hopefully that answers your question. You just double click on that. Double click on that. Any questions so far? Yep.
I've got a question. How do we add gold from the starting equipment?
It is super easy. You go to your inventory, you see where it says treasure.
Oh yeah.
Just click on one of the boxes, put the number in, and next to it put GP.
Okay.
You have
cool.
added 15 GP to your character sheet. Well done. So hopefully that you can see that your daggers are there as well. Once you've done all of your inventory stuff, the next thing is that if any of you are casters, you want to be adding some of your spells. So if you've opened up all the buttons on your virtual tabletop on the right, just open up the spell selection, and very much you search for the spells that you want. And once again, you drag them across to your character sheet. On your actions page, though, pretty straightforward to that. I'm just going to quickly open up some people's characters. I think Janus is more or less sorted. Boom, boom. Abilities, Fey Ancestry. You've got a cantrip. Wow. Is that because you are a high elf?
High elf. Yes.
High elves with all their magics, and I don't need to sleep. You know, as much as I say I don't like rogues, high elf rogues have got to be the worst.
I thought I'd go for everything that I could possibly do to upset the GM, because I thought that would be the best way to do well in a campaign.
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it works brilliantly, as we can, for instance, if people haven't followed how to generate characters, when you generate your second character, it gives everybody a second
go
go.
for it again. Wait, what?
I'm absolutely fine with you being a lightning rod for the flat.
It's weird. Every time we get into combat, it seems that all of everybody targets Janus.
Not at all, not at all. So, just looking at you, Galen, you've managed to get a vicious mockery there, and yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say from I think the gnome subtype is meant to have minor illusion. So do I just add that myself?
Absolutely, it is literally, and as you kind of look at this, you can put spells as cantrips there, and you can just add it in because your character has that. And the way that you should think about it, not so much as a computer program, but like if you were playing pen and paper, you would just write down minor illusion. So it's exactly the same with this. You just add it to your thing. It doesn't necessarily recognize that you should have it, but obviously you should as that. And the other thing to sort of bring to your attention, some spells have just utility. So there's no little looking glass by the side of them. So for instance, minor illusion doesn't have a little looking glass because all you can do is just what you say it is, and it doesn't affect the game mechanically in terms of giving disadvantage or doing damage or anything else. It might cause those things to happen if you minor illusion, a floor over a pit and someone walks along and doesn't see it's minor illusion, falls in. But we resolve the damage beyond just the minor illusion spell. But spells that do stuff like vicious mockery, if you click on your little looking glass, it opens up mechanically what it does. And you have a little button to cause your opponent to make a wisdom save. It's also got your DC in there, and if it fails it, then you can do your damage roll. Spells that do damage, you have an attack roll, but it seems that most of your spells at the moment are asking for a saving throw instead.
Yeah, there's none with an actual attack roll, I don't think.
Yeah, which is fine. And swings and roundabouts for such things. For instance, your healing word spell, if you click on that, there's no attack or anything. You just target your ally or your opponent. You click on the heal, and it will do that amount of healing to them. So the functionality, I keep repeating it, but it's important so people know. Brown shields are information, and the little looking glasses are the meat and bones of it. For instance, when your cantrips go up in damage, for instance, does Vicious Mockery scale? I can't remember, but we can click on the brown button, you see, and suddenly we can see that it does. So what you can do is when you go up to the level that it scales up, if you click where it says damage, your little looking glass, open it up and you can increase the damage. So you can make it scale should you want it to. But everything is looking very good.
I've got 2 bits that need to be changed that I'm not sure how to do.
Yeah.
One of them is I should have some extra musical instrument proficiencies.
Okay.
And I can't figure out how to add them.
It's pretty much like pen and paper. So go to your abilities section, which is third one down. Under proficiencies, if you right click,
Yep.
At the bottom it says create item.
Gotcha.
And
Thanks.
you can just type it in. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay. Cool.
Because again, it might not recognize that you have that proficiency as such, because pamphlet, you will have proficiency in performance, for instance. But when you use those, we know now that your character has those, and we'll take it into account basically. So it is as simple as that. If you make a mistake, you can right click and you can delete stuff as well. So it is as relatively as easy as all of that.
Cool. And then the other thing is I just need one of my ability scores changed.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know whether it's locked for players or not, but technically speaking, what do you want to change?
So I had a +2 to int, and I wanted to change that to charisma.
So do you need to drop your intelligence down to 10? Is that what you mean? Have you taken the bonus to intelligence already?
No, it's just that's what comes with the gnome, I think.
Right. Okay. So if you click on charisma on the box and type in 17.
Oops.
No, you double clicked on it.
So
as you see now, it is magically changed to 17.
Yeah, and then I can do the same to bring the other one down.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Again, cool. Just like pen and paper. So it's a really cool system. I am very, very pro Fantasy Grounds because it's served me well. There are a lot of things. There's a lot of things of wait there. I don't know how to do this, but as soon as you are told, it's like, oh yeah, that's really easy. Fantastic stuff. So Stephen Sinclair, how are you doing? Is your character sorted? It's all looking good.
Yeah, I'm just having trouble putting his picture on there. Can't figure it out.
Are you trying to load your own picture?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you click the portrait, I think you can open the folder button.
Yep.
That opens up where you need to drop the image into from your desktop.
Yes.
And then it should drop it in, and I think you kind of find the picture and load it. But I think that's the way to do it. One of the big problems with being an eternal GM is that I've never really had to create a character, but it's how I import images to the system.
Yes. Hold on. I mean, everything else is done. It's
Yeah.
Just
So, I mean, it's taken maybe half an hour. I think we were doing a little chat, maybe less than that. But that is because we've explained the process from the very beginning. You can create characters within 5 minutes, especially first level characters. I feel like I've been really mean to Janus, so I think what we should really do is level Janus up a bit. Thank you very much for hosting the stream, Chris. I hope you're actually okay. Really appreciate it. So yeah, we've been a little bit harsh to Janus, so I'm going to show you how to level it up, and we'll let him or her, as the character is them. Sorry, we'll let them. Janus is great as them. I love it. I love the yeah.
I thought you'd catch that one.
Yeah,
quick.
no, absolutely, absolutely. So if we need to level characters up, it is really easy. So we left click where it says Rogue One. I quite like that as well. Rogue One. Sorry, it's been a long day. Let me have my little
All these little
moments.
games you've been playing.
And it's this again, this magic little shield button here. All we need to do to level it up is drag it across and drop it there. You see, it's
Just point
Rogue
out,
2.
Andy.
Yep.
Your camera on the stream is just covering up that at the moment, so you might want to just drag it
Oh
down.
no, thank you. You've got my face, so it's okay because like we have been
You
really
can
true.
your face, and that's how we level up.
We've been truly mean to Janus, so like it's Rogue 2 now, and if you look down here, the hit points. But you know what? Because we've been mean, let's level it up to 3. We can choose one
Just
of
to
these,
kill me
but
off faster, isn't it?
yeah. But you know what? No. Yeah, I've changed my mind. Let's send you back to level 1.
Oh,
There you go, done. And done. What is your hit points?
For a moment, I felt like I was going to be
super very
powerful.
special.
I do like that it has kept my hit points there.
It has, but
what they should be.
I mean, a rogue's hit points is 6 plus con, isn't it? It is now anyway. I think it's supposed to be 8 plus 1.
I'm not going to disagree with the GM.
But I was just testing, and you seem to agree that it was 6 plus, but it seems to have gone up to 9 now.
It's weird. It has gone to 9, yes.
So leveling up again is super easy in it. What you have to do, obviously, is choose your extra spells, choose your equipment. If you gain any equipment, and that does take a degree of time, especially in the games that people are jumping in at much higher levels. But I think we are more or less done with characters. So let us introduce our characters for the moment. If you protagonists, players, want to quickly give us a very brief overview, we'll do it properly in character in episode 1. But let's get a bit of a flavour for your character so we can start talking about character connections. So we'll start off with you, Janus.
Janus is potentially a level 3 rogue. Unfortunately, he seems to have forgotten quite a bit in the last few minutes.
Yeah. Sad times.
When you first see Janus, you'll probably think that they're quite feminine. Most likely looking around the tavern, trying to catch a few eyes. If you actually get to know them, you'll start to learn that there's usually a little bit of a con going on at any time, trying to trick a few wealthy people into spending a bit of time with them, and mysteriously things go missing shortly afterwards. It's peculiar how that keeps happening, but they are very eager to meet new people and potentially tease them a little bit and get them to come along to Janus's way of thinking.
Excellent stuff. And have you discussed sort of out of character with the rest of the players any connections at the moment, or are we working this out now?
Not at the moment.
That's okay.
Open to if anybody has any thoughts.
Right, well, we can do a little game in a minute. So that's good to know. I didn't want to override anything that you had already done. So we're going to go from right to left. So Galen, just a little bit about your character.
So this is Galen Mackenzie Codswallop, who is he's an elderly gnome bard. He's a bit doddery, and fancies himself as a storyteller. He likes going place to place and telling tales that he's heard and that he's seen and that he claims to have seen. He's got shoulder length hair that's kind of tied in a half ponytail at the back, and big mutton chops and a big thick grey handlebar moustache. He's got a fancy dapper suit, which is a bit bright and garish when he's visiting places like the Squalor. And he always carries with him a battered old guitar, which is like a full-size guitar for him, but it's actually a ukulele for a standard person.
Beautiful. And again, have you not really chatted to people about any kind of character connections at the moment?
No, not yet. I think
That's
I
fine.
think that'll be to come.
Again, I just once again don't want to override anything. So with that, we move on to Minty.
Minty is a sheep girl who is also a wizard. She is very bubbly, go lucky, happy, and very trusting and such. Bit of a ditz, really. An idiot savant at what she does. She's the sort that would, on occasion, have to be shooed out of where she's working because she's made a mess of everything, and they don't want her to help clean it up because she'll just make a worse mess. But the times where she does do something right, it goes really right.
Excellent stuff. And I'm assuming because the other two haven't done any character connections at the moment, neither have you.
Not really,
No,
no.
again, it's perfectly fine. This is what we're going to do. And then finally, we move to Stephen Sinclair.
Yes, Stephen Sinclair is a halfling of the House of Brass familial ties. His family was once well regarded for the innovation that they promised to bring, but due to the inability to provide, were thrown from grace, let's say. So they have now had to move into the neighborhood to get by. As a young boy, he sort of watched his family reel badly from this failure and has taken himself away from a life of dreaming and inventing for more honest, hardy work. He's a typical Brit. He works on the rat run. He repairs the carriages, makes sure things run on time, and doesn't buy into nonsense anymore. He wishes he could, and there's a small part of him that still wishes to, but for the moment he wants to just be an honest, simple, working class man.
Okay, excellent. And I'm assuming because of the other three have not done any character connections.
No, not yet.
That's okay. So one of the key things that I certainly like to do, and I'm keen to do in the Untold Chronicles, is I'm a great believer that role-playing games should be cooperative. They shouldn't just be the GM dictating this is the way that the story's going. I do like my style. It's not right or wrong. I like to say everybody's table is different. Everybody runs their games differently, and as long as everybody around their table is enjoying it, that is the key thing. What I like to do my table though is give narrative agency to players, and this is what we're about to do now. Is I'm going to allow you as characters, should you wish to, obviously, because the agency is yours, to begin to build connections between each other. One of the great things about the Smoke is it's this massive living city, this urban sprawl, and it's a very social place, so much so that really even the most mightiest of adventurer can easily become undone if they don't have a network of friends within the city to help them out. It's pretty much who you know in the city as opposed to what you know. That goes at all stratas of social level as well. You can be the poorest of the poor, but if you if you know the beggars and the ratters, if you know the people that know how to survive in the city, they'll give you shelter. Just like if you're in the cut and thrust of the financial district of the Gear Vaults, again, it's who you know rather than what you know. Completely different to kind of up in the dredges, which we will cover tomorrow night. So we'll start off with Minty. Minty, I'd like you to choose another character. It's great to see that we've got an awesome picture of Stephen now. And I want you to choose a connection to them. This connection can be positive or negative. And we will discuss it and talk it through and round it out. So which of the other three do you think that you are most likely to have known?
Probably Janice, because of the fact that Minty's unfortunately quite obviously a little bit gullible and overtly friendly.
Right.
So she
Oh,
automatically
Janus will
trusted.
love to make friends with you.
Okay. Well, you don't have any choice at the moment, Janus, because this
Oh.
is Minty's
Oh
narrative.
dear.
You will get your chance in a minute. But Minty, so how do you want this to play out? You don't need to role play it out. How do you perceive Janus and what got you together? I'm more than happy to throw things your way. Did Janus scam you? Did Janus bring you in and use you to scam somebody else? Have you been a willing participant? So many different choices.
I think it's most likely that well, Minty doesn't realise it. She thought she was just having friendly conversation. Janice used her gullibility to worm information about projects being worked on at the Potters Guild out of Minty.
Right, lovely job. So for those of you who are in chat that are unaware of the background of the smoke, the Potters Guild, well, they obviously make pots. That is the key thing that they do, but they're also the Smoke's Mages Guild. Would it be a knowledge about pots or knowledge about magic, as you are indeed a wizard, I believe?
Yes. More likely knowledge about magic.
Not the important stuff then, because pottery is obviously the key to.
They won't
Okay,
let her
magic.
near pottery. She'll
All
drop
right,
it,
beautiful, beautiful.
or she'll fall in it and get stuck.
Okay, so we're beginning to open up now. A scam or a ploy, using you to get something from the Potters Guild. This is interesting. Okay, so using you and your influence, what did they get you to do? Again, maybe a magic item, a scroll, some kind of enchanted item. It doesn't necessarily need to be powerful. To do a bigger con, maybe? Or was it to steal something from the Potters Guild?
Probably to get access on it to further other scams.
Okay.
Oh, you know me so well.
Okay, so low level stuff. But it is building up to potentially this this scam that Janus has or maybe hasn't put into full operation yet. We will come to that. So you would perhaps say currently you and Janus, you are quite you feel comfortable with Janus. Janus you consider to be a friend.
Yeah, Minty considers them a friend and doesn't. Well, she does try and think things through of why she might be asked for something. She's like, "Well, it's my friend. They can't be wanting to do anything nasty."
Yeah, that is fine. So that is perfect. It sounds very much like Janus has a scam going on at the moment that hasn't been finished, and you have been unwittingly and gullibly drawn into it. Brilliant first bit of storytelling. Is there anything else you want to add to that narrative? It's enough as far as I'm concerned at the moment, but if there's anything else you want to add to it, that is either now or potentially thinking over the next kind of couple of weeks before we go to episode 1.
Tying in with the background that Minty's got, she does have in her possession a book of sort of rare arcane knowledge, and that's one of the few things she hasn't shared with Janice.
Okay, so you still have secrets.
Mm.
Okay, that is perfect. Thank you very much, Minty. That is your narrative and your agency at the moment. So because you've chosen Janus, we move to Janus. You two need to do the same thing, but you can't choose Minty. So
Well, I think that in that case, I'm going to go for Gallon.
okay,
As quite often, Janus uses the taverns to have a nice way of meeting these people, and it's useful to know the travelling bards, and definitely a useful one. That Gallon's a reliable source of entertainment while I need somebody to do a bit of distraction. And so I've often approached Gallon and kind of requested certain songs or certain tales to be told.
okay, perfect. Have you greased the wheels, or are you using just your charm, or do you throw coins Gallon's way?
I wouldn't be so rash as to just use coin. It's usually a few drinks here and there, a little bit of flirting every now and then.
Okay, excellent. So
Occasional,
this is obviously Janus's agency at the moment, but Gallon, you have a chance to sort of not take control of it, but guide it, because this isn't a case of Janus telling you how to play your character. How would you react to such flirting, some drinks being brought for you, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I mean, Gallon would be happy with all of that. I think what you would know from just a couple of conversations with him is that he's not really that fussed about payment in terms of money. What he does want is payment in terms of stories. So he would very much want to hear some tales about some of the exciting japes that you've pulled, and the marks that you've taken down and that kind of thing.
Now this is interesting. This is where we start getting to the DM smiling here. I kind of like to think that maybe you've known each other for quite a while, and you have started to run out of fanciful tales. But to keep on this, you've started perhaps telling Galen. It's Galen, isn't it? Galen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, some more of your scams that have been maybe a little more truthful. How would you say that was the
I
truth?
think once Janus starts to run out of quickly thought up tales to entertain Gallon at first, those little nuggets of truth have started to seep in there. I
Okay.
suspect Gallon possibly might even be able to actually start to piece together a few of those to actual events that happened.
Well, I mean, maybe Galen can or maybe Galen can't. It's not our job to decide that. But as tales begin to circulate around certain areas of the smoke, people hear about certain confidence tricks being pulled. That names have been changed to protect the innocent, obviously.
Oh, of course.
But that is quite interesting to know. Nothing has happened with that yet, but it's very good to know. But Janus has kind of batted the narrative back to you, Galen. I mean, you're the kind of character that might be putting pieces together, or is it just stories to you at the moment?
Not sure. I mean, he would definitely be more interested in them as stories. And I think it would be a question of, you know, how upfront Janice is about how real those things are and how accurate they are in it. Because if they're accurate, then he'd probably, you know, embellish them and change them quite a bit. But if they're kind of made up and embellished to start with, then he probably wouldn't.
Okay. Beautiful stuff. So, Janus, you must be feeling really good now. You've got Minty, gullible with contacts in the Potters Guild. You've basically got your own bard to your beck and call.
Isn't he just so delightful?
Well, absolutely. This is going very, really well. So, Galen, you obviously your connection, your narrative connection, will be with Stephen. So this is kind of for both of you to decide. It can be positive or negative, but how do you know Stephen?
Well, the thing that sprung to mind when Stephen was kind of talking through his background was that so I mean, Galen's kind of performed from, you know, pretty much everywhere in the smoke.
Yep.
And so you would have probably performed for the House of Brass at various points.
Okay, wow.
And so I was thinking that because Stephen is, you know, excited by the call of adventure and discovery and that, then he may well have taken a special interest in some of the tales that were being told, and then we might have struck up conversation around you know, from that.
Wow. You mean fabricated tales about actual confidence tricks going on?
Wait, what?
That sounds very interesting. How does that sound to you, Stephen? How would you? You certainly would have heard of Galen. There would have been a number. The Brass family like to throw parties for their workers and the like. So before you moved out to the neighbourhoods, you certainly might well have easily encountered Galen.
I imagine if any of you have ever traveled by the Rat Run, I probably would have seen you at some point, and you may, just because he's a halfling with sky blue hair and beard, it's hard to forget his face. In regards to House of Brass, yeah, most likely he would have attended parties there as a sort of lesser member, or you know, someone who was thrown an invitation out of a backhand, sort of, you can come if you like.
Yeah.
Whether he would have taken any sort of credence or stock in the stories told to him is another story. He's not really one for tales of bragging and adventure and all that kind of stuff. He wants to be, and inside he would like to forge his own, but he holds sort of a stoic front to the people, so he may listen in, may have a smirk, but generally speaking, it's not something he's going to put too much into at the moment when there's work to be done.
Perfect.
Would it be likely that like Stephen would have talked about wanting to go on adventures?
If you'd have really put some of the good rum in him, he may start talking about his inventions. But the way I see him is that, well, I put in that he lives near where they would store the, I suppose, trams overnight. So he has like a house or a thing over there, and he's got inventions, he's got ideas and things he's working on to try and rebuild his reputation. But he can't follow through because of the fear of failing again or just not living up to the expectation he puts ahead of himself. So yeah, I reckon if you'd have put him in a drunken enough state, he'll start mumbling or giving you information about his inventions, at least wanting to be more than he is now.
So maybe rather than Stephen taking an interest in Gallen's stories, it might have been the other way around, where Gallen took an interest in Stephen and his talk of inventions and stuff like that, and
That
thought there might be some exciting tales come out of that.
that sounds even stronger, to be perfectly honest. And I kind of the visuals that I've got now is kind of these tram sidings in the smoke above the surface, and there's a small sort of shack that even late at night the strange kind of lights flashing and various kind of smells of ozone and stuff as you work late into night in your strange inventions. Does that sound?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've sort of got an idea. Well, not that I've got an idea of how the rat run looks, at least in my head. I don't want to take it over, but I've sort of got this. It's sort of like, like Bristol's Temple Mead Station. It's just sort of like a big, dirty glass building.
Yeah.
The trams come in late at night. There's the way I built the trams in my head. So the old like Crouch Tramway Village, the old trams.
Absolutely, yeah, that's perfect.
But there's like a sort of a big 6-foot pit that all the trams run along, and the rats are stored underneath in these big cages.
Yeah.
So they're not. So there's sort of an air of grace to them, but they're still filthy and horrible. And it's
Well, this is
the
I mean, this is the smoke, and the one thing you can't get away from, even below ground, is this horrible smog. So yeah, it does. I mean, the trams that kind of run the Splendor are constantly washed and cleaned on the inside. The ones that kind of run in the neighborhoods and the squalor, less often. But that is perfect. So the connection really is you, Gallen, interested in these wonderful tales of invention and the like. And then finally we move to Stephen. Stephen, you can't choose Gallen because you've just done this, but out of Minty and Janus, what kind of connection might you have with either of those two, either positive or negative?
I mean, I imagine if all three of them sort of have a fairly close vicinity to each other, or at least operate in a fairly tight area, I probably would have seen them in, pubs or places where the working class go to have a pint at the end of the night before they go home and try to wake up for the next day. I would imagine Janus at some point may have tried to. Actually, I don't know. Either Minty or Janus would probably have come my way, tried to spin something, tried to get something out of me, but I don't. Far too working class to buy into any of that nonsense.
Yeah. How does it sound then that maybe Janus's master plan, this big con, as it were, it requires some kind of invention, and having heard Gallen's, sorry, I need to get used to that, Gallen, tales of your inventions, sees you as a bit of a mark and has made approaches to you, but this is your narrative and your agency, and so far you've proven hard to get and kind of refused, and maybe even if you wish to, are somewhat suspicious.
Yeah, that sounds pretty much about right. Like, the idea of doing something exciting and adventurous is there, but he wouldn't go for it straight away. It would take more than a flash of the hair and a pretty smile to get out of his steady workaday life.
Perfect.
My darling, I'm always up for a challenge.
It will be, and I think that is perfect as far as I am concerned. It kind of means that you are at least acquainted with each other, and potentially gives us a very good sort of opening scene, and potentially a few little plot hooks that we can smooth out. And in the meantime, if you want to chat about it in our Discord, then feel free to explore that. But rather than sort of in session 1, episode 1, sort of spending that good sort of half an hour discussing that, at least we've put that together now, and created a nice little bit of imagery and narrative of what's going on, and it's kind of more the neighborhoods by the looks of it, rather than the splendor or the squalor at the moment. Is everybody happy with that? Does anybody want to add anything else?
I like that.
I like it.
Admittedly,
Sounds
it is focused around Janus, so of course I like
Yeah,
it.
but like you're going to die at the start of episode 1, so
I look forward to
all we
the
have
new
to,
character coming in
yeah,
and trying to work out what's going on.
yeah, absolutely, brilliant stuff. So
the rat run somehow.
yeah, excellent stuff. So the only other thing that I kind of really want to go through, it, I'm sorry if it's a little bit dull for you four, but it's more for the viewers in chat. It's kind of the homebrew rules. I'm fairly certain that most of you in the game probably know all this already, but it's important to sort of just cover this. So firstly, some of them I kind of run already. Potions, we basically downgrade it. So if you drink a potion yourself, it's just a bonus action. If you feed a potion to somebody else, it is an action to do that. That doesn't mean potions can only be drank by you as a bonus action. You can upgrade it to an action if you've used a bonus action already. Just to my mind, action economy, it benefits the players, but I think that is more reasonable than it taking an entire action to drink a potion. We're not using the flanking variant rules. The reason for this now is there are so many different abilities and specializations to get advantage on your opponents than there were when 5th edition was first written, that I don't think there's any need for it at the moment. I think combat will be equally as fast by you using the correct powers to gain advantage on your opponents. We won't be multi-classing, but there is a proviso. If, because of narrative, your character has some kind of epiphany or some life-changing direction, then multi-classing will be fine. But it kind of needs to be because of the narrative, as opposed to, well, I want to be able to smite and I want to be able to Eldritch Smite, so I'm going to take levels in Paladin and Warlock, even though it doesn't really make narrative sense. So pretty straightforward, really. I'll come on to 4, 5, and 6 in a minute. For some settings, meat grinder rules will be used. Not for this game, so you don't need to worry about that. It's the normal death fails and death saves, and the normal, if you roll 10 or more, it's a success. The settings that we've got in mind for meat grinder are shadowless and scraplands. Death fails, when you take a death fail, it stays on your character until you take a long rest. So it means that you kind of don't want your friends to take progressive death fails, because if you've got other encounters going on after that combat, it could end up very dangerous for them. Resurrection magics, they exist. It's all part of Dungeons and Dragons, but I do like, and I'm going to call it the critical role approach, but I was doing it before. I don't want to say before Matt Mercer, because he was probably doing it before he streamed Critical Role. But it's not something I've directly copied it. I've always felt that bringing characters back should be more than just simply I'm spending 1,000 gold and visiting a local church, of which I have no idea what even the god stands for. So there will be a percentage chance of it succeeding, and that percentage chance will be modified by the amount of role playing, as in gathering friends and family, gathering items that are important, calling back the spirit, etc., to make a cinematic scene, rather than just making it a straightforward kind of casting of the spell. The more times that people die and the more times they're brought back, the dice it's harder and harder to do as well. Then there's some homebrew rules for critical hits and misses, some repercussions for missing your opponent with a critical miss. Critical hits, we already know you double the dice, so there will be repercussions for that. There will also be critical successes and fails for saving throws and ability checks as well. Natural ones and natural 20s go without saying, but we're introducing a thing of margin and of success for fails. So, for instance, if you needed to make a saving throw and the DC was 15, if you succeed by a certain number, then it'll be a critical success. And if you fail by a certain number, it'll be a critical fail. And there will be repercussions for that. And that includes ability checks as well. I'll talk about the actual margins of success when we start playing the game. But as I said before the stream, we want this to be cooperative. So kind of strangely, we'll be giving agency sometimes to you, the players, to be able to say what actually happens. So for instance, if you critically fail at picking a lock, rather than me going, okay, you have broken all of your lock picks, if you have a better idea, something that is more appropriate to your character, or something that is going to sort of make the scene substantially more interesting, you have agency to say, how about this? I haven't thought about this. Can we maybe do this? And you can help tell the story. As I said at the beginning, I really believe role-playing games have that beautiful ability to be really cooperative in storytelling, and new players as well as me, we can come up with some awesome ideas to tell a fantastic story. So both critical successes and fails shouldn't be seen as ways of penalizing you. It should be ways of creating an even more entertaining story, not just for the viewers but for us as well. So those are the homebrew rules. So is everybody happy and understands sort of those things?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything particularly there that should upset people. The only thing that I need to do, and we might be tweaking it, we might say, oh, the margin is this number, and then go, no, that's really not working, so let's change. So these are literally, we're play testing these rules, and I want you as players feedback, as well as maybe people in chat watching the channel, so we can kind of get the sweet spot where we think that this is making the game entertaining. You don't want to critically succeed or critically fail all of the time, because that takes away that magic. At the same time, you never want to not do it, because again, that takes away that magic. So we'll be tweaking the numbers. Wow, we are almost coming to the end. It's almost that magical. This would be, in 2 weeks' time, coming to the end of our very first session. So very briefly, have you got any questions? You know that I'm available on Discord anyway, but anything that you kind of want to quickly add to the stream now, or any questions that you want to go over, really? All
So
right.
it's possibly worth mentioning something that's just come up in chat.
Yeah.
The idea of possibly having some sort of banner or a screen that we can pull up to give a bit of detail about who's playing. So I think we're potentially going to have a look into that.
I don't understand what you're saying.
So having a scene within OBS that you can pull up that would give, so instead of having always on this scene that we're on at the moment, being able to show a bit of detail about the players, so a little short description of each character maybe.
Possibly. possibly. We'll wait and see how it goes. I'm certainly not opposed. I think it's a very good idea. I think logistically it means that I have to ask people to spend some of their time trying to do that, which if it was for only one setting, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. But we're launching 8 settings. So again, it's very much a case of, and I know I keep harping on about this, I feel really bad for doing it, but it's all about kind of financing it. It's all about being able to reward people for their help. I mean, Larry spent an awful lot of time, and thank you very much for this, compiling the setting backgrounds. Stuart is incredibly generous with his time for sort of modding and answering people on Discord. James has done the infographics, and I feel bad about people using their time without rewarding them, but I haven't got the finances to reward people. This is where all of the subscriptions sort of come from. So the more improvements that you want to see, both in terms of technology, in terms of art, in terms of everything else, it can only be done gradually as we build up support for the stream and the channels. So if you like what we're doing, if you want us to push it forward and improve, please, sub, and we'll try our best to improve things. It's just simply down to that. There's only so much we can do at any given point. But we genuinely want to grow the channel. We genuinely want to make things awesome. We wouldn't mind adding video at some point. So this is the very start, and I'm fairly confident that we can move things forward and make it very, very cool.
I think as well on the kind of getting people to sub if they can, even something as simple as just sharing a link to the stream.
Absolutely. It's really strange. The metrics in Twitch is you've got all sorts of achievements for people chatting. You've got certain achievements and rewards for number of people chatting, number of viewers that you've got. So as Stuart said, sort of inviting your friends to watch, inviting your friends to click like on YouTube when we put the YouTube things up, liking it on YouTube, subscribing on YouTube, which is free to do. All of these little things that anybody can do really help us out. So it's not all about the money. It's every little thing that people can do if you want to see us grow, basically. If you don't, then that's cool, and we can carry on doing what we're doing. We're still running some fun games. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. Fundamentally, that's the way that it is. But we are coming to the end of it, so I hope you found it informative. This is going to be the process for the next few weeks as we kind of do these session zeros. I've got some great ideas now of what we can do for our first episode in a couple of weeks with these interesting characters. And I mean, the other thing to leave you with is everything is connected. One of the great things for me is that each of these campaigns, all of these different characters, might at some point, not necessarily all together, but meet up. So it's going to be interesting to see where we can take this story. I mean, the Smoke campaign will go on for a while, and you might not meet any of the characters in any of the other settings, but eventually things will intermingle. I'm using the same Fantasy Grounds campaign for all of the Untold Chronicles. So slowly but surely, as we kind of look at these 4 characters here, we'll be building them up. And I think we've got 8 settings that are going to be running with 4 players each. So I believe that is 4 8 24. Is that right? Is that maths?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the end of the next 2 weeks, we should have like 24 unique characters to take place in this. and that's if we don't fill any of the other sort of spots in. So it's a super exciting project for me.
Chat has corrected as it is 32.
32. Thank you. I was going to say, because
I'm not
like
going to admit that I've got a maths degree.
no, because I was going 2 8s is 16, isn't it? So yeah, you're right, 32. So 32, which is even more. I mean, 32. I mean, to me, it's blowing my mind already. The fact that we've got this sort of Marvel Cinematic Universe of these 32 characters that can sort of team up and move around this game world. I'm super excited, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But it is late, and I have to consider players. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you found it useful, and I can't wait to see episode 1 of The Smoke in the Untold Chronicles. For now, I'm going to say good night to everybody, say goodbye. Please join us tomorrow as we talk about characters for the Dredges. Good night and take care for until we see you next, I guess. See you later.